Good day, my name is Warren Norrid and I practice law here in downtown Arlington, in the heart of DFW. Because we're talking about trademarks in this video, you can be anywhere in the world and the information I'm giving you may be relevant. I say may because this information is intended as an introduction to trademarks for my clients and my clients only. If you are not my client, then this information should be considered an introduction to our firm and an invitation to call us for more specific information. Along with patents and copyrights, trademark registration is commonly handled by attorneys who practice in the field of intellectual property, of property that exists only in the minds of man. If you took all the humans off the planet, there'd be no trademarks laying around. They exist only in our thoughts. So what exactly is a trademark? A trademark is a brand name, a symbol, or a device, or anything that identifies the source of a good or service. You are familiar with many trademarks, even if you don't think so. If you are on the highway and you want to stop for a quick meal, you look for the golden arches of a McDonald's, maybe. If you're buying shoes, you may look for the swoosh of the Nike tennis shoes. Of course, both the golden arches and the swoosh are symbols, but the words McDonald's and Nike are also registered trademarks. Trademarks can be words, symbols, or shapes. The classic Coke bottle shape is a registered trademark of Coca-Cola. So how do you get a trademark? I want to clear up something that comes up a lot. People come into my office and they say they've already registered their business and their trademark. But when I do a little bit of research, I find what they've done is they've filed an assumed name certificate, also known as a DBA. It's not the same thing. A business name just means that the state is allowing you to cash checks and do business under that name. But it is not a trademark registration. Similarly, people will obtain an internet website that has a business name and the URL of the domain name, and they believe they have a registered trademark. It's fundamentally not true. If you register a domain name with someone else's trademark in it, you may find that you wind up getting sued and having to turn it over. You may also think that state agencies would cooperate with each other and not allow an assumed name to be an infringing name, but they don't. It's pretty common for people to buy a website domain that includes a federally registered trademark or to get a certificate of assumed name that has somebody else's registered trademark in it. Lawsuits get filed. So let's talk about what a trademark is instead of what it is not. I like to use the analogy of a boat that I build in my backyard. When I build a boat, I own a boat. This is true even if I've never registered it with anybody else. It exists and it's mine because I built it. Lack of registration does not prevent my boat's existence. However, if I want to take my boat for a spin in a public pool or a public lake somewhere, the registration brings benefits. If my boat is stolen or I want to prove that I own the boat, then the registration of the boat makes all of those things much easier if I've registered it. Similarly, you own a trademark when you build it. That is to say, when you use a word or symbol commercially. I used Norrid Law as our law office name for years before I registered it with the Trademark Office, also known as, which is part of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. But I owned Norrid Law as a trademark used to identify my legal services for years before I registered it. The lack of registration did not mean I did not own it. But now that I've registered it, no one else can take and go register my mark and then threaten me with a lawsuit if I don't change my name. I have eliminated a number of potential problems by registering my name. A lot of my clients are in the business of starting new businesses, and in such situations it's helpful to file what we call an intent to use application, which can confuse issues. In that situation, we ask the Trademark Office to evaluate a potential mark for registration and get pre-approval of the mark. Then after we get that pre-approval, we have 6 months or more, and during that time we start building the business and we use the mark to advertise goods and services. And then we file a statement of use with the Trademark Office to complete the registration process. My point in bringing this up is that we don't really have a trademark until we begin to use the mark commercially. In the same way, we don't have a boat if all I have are plans on how to build a boat, but I haven't actually built it. I don't own a house if I just have plans to build a house. I don't have a trademark until I've actually started to use it, even if I've started talking to the Trademark Office. The couple of other issues that you want to include when you're looking at trademarks. You're going to have to know the classes of products or services that you're using the trademark with. NORAD Law is a service mark in Class 45. If you go to the trademark office and attempt to register a mark with NORAD in it for law firms, you may have a problem. You should have a problem. But the same mark can be used in many classes as long as there is no likelihood of confusion, which is the biggest problem in obtaining registration for a mark. An example is in order. No one confuses Dove soap with Dove chocolate, even though when you look at it, the two trademarks are a little bit similar. In fact, while preparing for this video, I went to make sure that I was telling the truth, and I looked at the word Dove, and I found Dove wetsuits, Dove control valves, sellers of Doves. There's lots of Dove things that are being sold, and each one of them can be registered in a different class as long as there's no likelihood of confusion. Of course, a mark can be used for many types of services and products. Mercedes started with using its symbol for cars, but now it's registered for clothing and some other products. So you can register a trademark for one product, and then it can start to grow into other products. Just a few other quick notes. When filing for a mark, you'll need to have an example of your mark, or what we call a specimen. The best specimens show the mark being used in advertising. Signage outside a store is ideal. However, an invoice used after a sale, blank letterhead, business cards, often won't work as a specimen for the trademark office. This is the kind of place where a trademark attorney can be very useful and earns his keep. Let's also talk about trademark quality. People often want to have a very descriptive mark. I could use Texas Legal, for example, as my business name and be highly descriptive. But it's very generic. The trademark office is unlikely to grant registration for a mark like Texas Legal or something like that, because they don't want to let one business grab the entire phrase that describes an entire set of services in a particular geographic area. So what does the best trademark look like? The best trademarks in the world typically are things like Verizon or Exxon. Both of those sound like words, they look like words. Most of us can spell them, maybe even not ever seen them before. But those words did not exist prior to the creation by their companies. Ideal, that's what you want. Please don't use a business name that is so generic that you can't register it. How long does a trademark last? As long as you use it is the right answer. However, registration has to be updated at the 5th year after it's first registered, and then the 10th year after it's been registered, and then every 10 years after that. The last question I get is the one people have first. How much does it cost to get a trademark registered? I'll tell you, usually it's $1,000 to $2,000 in most people's office, most law firms. In our office right now in the middle of 2016, we usually charge about $1,200, and that includes the filing fee. That changes though, and it changes easily. If you've been using the mark for decades, that's helpful. If you've been using the mark for decades, but since somebody else registered the mark last year, well, now we have a more complex problem. These things can be dealt with sometimes, but not always. But it costs more. And that's our introduction on trademarks. We can assist you in filing your trademark wherever you are. We have clients all over Europe, Asia, and all over the United States. We can handle it all through the phone or through the internet. Having a nationally recognized, nationally registered trademark is very useful when it comes to lawsuits or as a shield against other people filing lawsuits against you. If you're trying to find us, we're easy to find at noradlaw.com. info@noradlaw.com for email. You can call us by phone at 817-704-3984. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, let us know. Thanks. Good day.